if there's just some wrong setting on it.
Of that.
Working for Stephanie.
I don't know. Right. The magic touch.
I'm gonna try to record it on my phone as a backup.
Cool. So Logan, you're gonna talk about that? I'll just turn it over to you. Understanding community projects? Yeah, I can do that.
Great.
I can talk about.
You can go on
Yeah,
and on.
yeah. I can talk all day. Yes, that sounds good.
I'll bring one of those clock timers with the bells.
All right, are we recording?
I don't know.
We are.
We're good. Can everybody hear us? Oh, hello, hello?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, you're coming in.
Nice.
Great, thank you. Okay, a little technological delay here. So we swore in our new members, Tiana and Elizabeth, thank you. We're going to move to the next agenda item, which is standing committee projects update. I'm going to ask,
We need it quickly.
wait.
Process, let's roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call, you're right. Let's start with Rick at this end and go around, and then we'll get the folks out in Cyberland. Cool.
Rick Hines, member.
Tracy Sabina, member.
Elizabeth Shaw, alternate.
Logan Dunning, vice chair.
Michael Chisholm, chair.
Tim Dodd, Deputy City Manager, staying in for Mel England.
Well, Daniel Sierra, District 1 Council Member and Mayor.
Christine Brinker, member. Stephanie Ellis, I'll be guest speaker today. Tiana Duncan, new member.
Okay. And
Jerry Webster, non-member.
Actually, be chair. Cara, someone kick us off.
so, Cara?
Sorry, Kara, we couldn't hear you.
Do we hear anything from Cara?
Cara Frangipani, member.
Thank you, Cara. Patrick?
Yep, Patrick Fitzgerald, member.
Thank you. Shelley?
Shelley Oren, member.
Great, thank you. Okay, and also the minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes? Any questions, edits, changes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
First from Rick, and second?
I wasn't here, but I looked at them.
All right, Tiana, second. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Now, we can move on to standing community projects update. And I asked Logan if he could.
Yes, I would like to give an update real quick. While we got disconnected, y'all online, I was just lamenting over, or praising rather, how wonderful the quarterly magazine looks. And sustainability is focused. Super exciting. I just wanted to give everybody a pat on the back for getting our one-pager in there. I think the content looks fantastic. Props to the city communications team. Really, job well done for our first official entry in the city magazine. Really came out great. So on that note, I missed last month, I apologize guys, but sort of speaking to the Sustainability Commission Communications Subcommittee. So how's that for a mouthful? We need to meet. So that's Cara, Patrick, you and me. We need to figure out a time to meet probably by early next week. And I can work with Mel for the four of us to find a time. We just need to hash out some potential topics for the second quarter magazine. And at that point, the process is we would bring that in front of the full commission for approval, vetting, and then we'd send that to the city, to Mel, to send to the city's communications team. Looking at dates from last year, that coincides with next week. So I will run point with Mel on that, or Tim. Do we know when Mel gets back?
Oh, she just had a concert tonight. She's still.
Good for her.
Sorry, I shouldn't have said it.
Good for Mel.
She had a great weekend with her sister in town, but she worked yesterday or she worked today.
Got
but
it.
She can't do it.
So I was panicked looking at dates today. So I will make sure we find time to meet and discuss some potential ideas. We can even, if we have time toward the end, we can just spitball and get that ball rolling.
Okay.
So just wanted to provide that update. We do need to get together and figure out some ideas for the next quarter's magazine. So I'll stop there.
No. Any questions or recommendations for Logan and the group?
Hi, what's up?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're looking for this. But I don't know if you know this, but like there's some programs going on at the schools where they're blending their own gardens and such. And the culinary schools, the culinary class at the high school is cooking for the children using the food that they made at the
Love that.
the elementary school. It's along those lines. I can get more details when I'm.
Well, I'll follow up with you one-on-one.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get some dialogue in there too.
Yeah.
Okay, culinary class at high school. Great idea.
Yeah, it was a cool thing that they're doing.
Yeah, I had no idea that existed. Love that.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we'll move on. We have a guest speaker tonight. Thank you for getting here, Stephanie. So Stephanie Ellis, take it away. Tell us what's going on with the project update.
Yeah, let me get this. Can everybody online see that as well?
No.
You need, Stephanie, if you're in Teams on your computer, you'll need to click the share button in addition to that.
I can do that. I was thinking this room, if you share to it, share to Teams.
Yeah, that's kind of double work, unfortunately. Yeah, you can do it through Windows.
How about now? Can you guys see that?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for inviting me. I think I've met a few of you before, but I'm Stephanie Ellis. I'm an engineer in Inglewood Utilities, and I'm also on the green team, and I'm our representative from utilities on the green team, so I get to work with Mel a lot. I'm really passionate about sustainability, also really passionate about water and our city's water and improving it, and so excited to talk to you guys today. Mel had asked me to give you guys kind of an overview on the City Ditch Piping Project, and I'm the project manager for that project. And this project does have some sustainability components to it, so I do kind of call it out, but there's time at the end, I believe, if you guys have questions, and I'm happy to answer anything you guys want. I also have some fact sheets on the project if you guys want those. Here's what we'll be going through today. We'll be talking through utilities plan to improve our taste, odor, and hardness of our water. We'll be going over project background and benefits, the trees and vegetation component to it, the project timeline, what stakeholder engagement has looked like on this project, and what next steps are. And like I mentioned, you can ask some questions at the end. I'll start by saying that Inglewood's water is clean, it's safe to drink, but we realize there are challenges with it associated with the taste, odor, and hardness, and that's something we're really working to address. We had a master plan developed in 2020 that drives a lot of our projects, and a lot of these projects are related to improving the taste, odor, and hardness of our water. And one of the big projects in it is the City Ditch Piping Project, which we'll talk through today. There's also a number of other projects, including upgrades to our water treatment plant, like filters, processes, ozone, and then we're also working through and kicking off soon lead service line replacements. So what is City Ditch? It is a 150-year-old ditch that was built to provide water to the Denver metro area. Inglewood owns, operates, and maintains it, and between Chatfield Reservoir and Harvard Gulch Park in Denver. It is our primary raw water conveyance system for bringing water to our water treatment plant. And it's also used to deliver non-potable irrigation water to a number of users all along the ditch. And all those users are in Littleton, Inglewood, and Denver, so it goes pretty far. They're all along the ditch. This project, our goal through it is to convert the city ditch to a fully piped system between Chatfield Reservoir and the Allen Water Treatment Plant. It's currently a mix of piped and non-piped, and majority of it is actually already piped. About 4 miles is piped, and through this project, we would be piping about 2.5 miles of the ditch. We're coordinating with Jacobs Engineering on the design, and most of this project actually falls within City of Littleton. And so you guys can see this map up here, and if I give you guys a fact sheet, you'll have one as well. But the sections in green are the open channel sections that are existing that we're looking at piping through this project. The orange is what's already piped, so you can see majority of it is already piped. And everything north of the water treatment plant, which is about Bellevue and Windermere, you guys are familiar with the area, or Layton and Windermere to be more exact. Everything north of there that's existing open channel is planned to remain and isn't going to change through this project.
Why not?
We don't necessarily all need to pipe all of it moving forward. So I'll go into kind of why we're doing this project and the benefits of it, and we just don't necessarily need to continue piping it north of there. Yeah, so there are numerous benefits to piping city ditch. The main benefit is an improvement to the source water that we're bringing to our water treatment plant. So when we have that direct connection to Chatfield Reservoir, and when we take our water through city ditch, we found that the water quality is much better than when we pull it off the South Platte River using our Union Avenue pump station. From a resiliency perspective, we want to have a piped system because it will allow us to take more water through city ditch year round. Right now, that can be kind of challenging to do in the winter. It will also increase our capacity in the ditch. So we're hoping that we can be able to take most, if not all, of our water through city ditch. And having a piped system is more low maintenance than having an open channel, I guess, just dirt open channel. There's a lot more maintenance associated with that. From a safety perspective, piping city ditch will reduce potential sources of contamination. Through this project we're removing, there's several stormwater inlets along city ditch before it reaches the Allen plant. So contamination from stormwater or other sources, and also reduces or limits public access to the ditch, which now people could easily access in a lot of areas. And overall, we're hoping that by piping the ditch, it will reduce other capital investments that we may need to make at the water treatment plant, such as facility or like that. There are also numerous sustainability benefits of piping city ditch. This system is a gravity flow system from Chatfield all the way down to Harbor Gulch Park. There's no pumping required, so that means there's no electricity needed to take that water. Whereas when we pump water from Union Avenue, our pump station off the South Platte River, that is, there's a lot of electricity associated with that. So reducing our carbon footprint. There's also a lot of losses that can happen from having an open channel ditch, evaporation, overtopping, seepage. And so by piping that system, we're reducing water losses, able to convey more water through the ditch. From a chemical usage perspective, because the water quality is better that we're taking to the water treatment plant, the goal would be that we can reduce our overall chemical usage at the water treatment plant. It would give us the opportunity to reduce the operations and maintenance associated with our Union Avenue pump station, which has both time and costs associated with it, but also just it's more work. So hopefully we don't have to put as much into that system. And like I mentioned before, city ditch is also used to convey non-potable water to various users on the ditch who use it for irrigation purposes, which means they don't need to use treated water for their properties or whatever it is that they're using that irrigation water for. And so by piping the ditch, we'll have improved reliability of this system. From time to time now, there are maintenance challenges that come up where we have to turn off the ditch, and those contract users or those water users aren't able to take that water. And so by having a pipe system, we're hoping, our goal would be that it would be a more reliable system for them. From a trees and vegetation standpoint, so as I mentioned, most of this project is within the city of Littleton. However, the portion in Inglewood is kind of Bellevue Park area, if you guys are familiar with that area and have seen the ditch running through there. When we pipe the ditch, there will be some trees that are removed. However, we are evaluating those. We're trying to minimize tree removal wherever possible because we realize that's very important. We like our trees. And through some of this, we've evaluated, especially in Littleton, what some of those trees look like. And some of them are actually invasive or they're already unhealthy that we're going to be removing. So there's actually some benefit to that. But in addition, City of Littleton has asked us to pay them a fee for loss of tree canopy, so they would be able to use that to plant trees or preserve more trees. And then following our work and installation of the pipeline, we would be seeding these vegetated areas with probably like a native seed mix. And that seed mix is determined by, I guess, the jurisdiction, so probably Littleton for most of the project. And then we would be restoring the ground to the same or better condition than what it is now. Sure.
Has Littleton agreed to use the fees to replace the trees, or will it just go into their general good?
I believe they would be specifically taking those so that they can put it towards their open space areas, but that's my understanding of it. How all the money and everything works on the backside, I'm not familiar enough with how everything works in Littleton, but I think that is their plan.
Want me to ask?
So, yeah. Oh, good question. So I'll take you guys through what the project timeline has looked like and where we're looking moving forward. We kicked this project off in October of 2022 with our phase 1 preliminary design. And in April and May of 2023, we held public meetings in Littleton and Inglewood. In June of last year, we kicked off our phase 2 final design, which is a fairly long process. We're still going through that, but that's when we kicked it off. In November of this year, we held some stakeholder meetings for residents in Littleton who live close to the project area. And then in January and February of this year, we've been having individual meetings with property owners in Littleton about this project. And I'll mention on these two boxes that we're going to have additional coordination with City of Inglewood residents as well. Our design in Littleton has progressed a little bit faster than the design of the portion in Inglewood. And so more will come for Inglewood residents, more will be shared with the public. But yeah.
Will there be a stakeholders meeting for Inglewood also?
So we held one in April, and I can't remember if it was the April or the May one last year. We had one last year.
Specific to the residents affected by it?
Yeah, I think we haven't defined exactly what that plan will be, but I think what we're gonna likely do is hold another meeting for people who live close to the project area, similar to what we did for Littleton. So yeah, our design in Inglewood is a little further behind. We're kind of reevaluating the original route we were planning on putting the pipeline. And so we're working through that now, and we're planning on putting out additional communication to Inglewood. We have also a website that I can, there's a link to it on here. I can share with you guys on Inglewood Engaged, but we'll put out more information there, and then we'll be contacting the residents who live close to that project area. Yeah. Do you live over there? Okay.
Why wouldn't it follow the existing ditch?
Yeah, so there's benefits to straight lining it in certain areas. And so what we're looking at doing it, I guess in several spots, we're looking at straight lining the pipe. Some of that is that we're trying to stay away from people and out of their backyards as much as we can. And so trying to be considerate of the neighbors in those areas. It also, from a hydraulics perspective and engineering, it works out well to have a more straight pipe than a meandering one.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there's also cost savings associated with just less pipe. So less invasive, we're in there for less time, construction wise, that sort of thing. So.
Does that mean it needs to go under some streets or things that it didn't used to? Or is it still generally in the right of way?
It is, so in Littleton, and I guess, so there are 4 reaches to the ditch. The furthest south reach, which is south of Mineral and Santa Fe and Littleton, that's mostly being piped by a developer, so we're coordinating that with the development. The next 2 reaches are also in Littleton, and those both run through like Lower Ridgewood Park, which is, I guess, kind of near Lee Gulch area we'll be crossing. and then Slaughterhouse Gulch Park. So those are both park areas. We're still gonna be in those park areas, but we're trying to straight line it more, and especially the one in Reach 2. That one runs through a lot of backyards, and so we're actually gonna be on railroad property for that one, and we're coordinating getting the permits for that. And so it's a more ideal solution, I think, for the neighbors that live in that reach. But yeah, so it's relatively in the same area, but a little bit different. We evaluated various options and different streets that we could put it in. Now it's, maybe more in public right of way, but a lot of it depends on what other utilities exist, or we evaluated at one point putting a portion of it in Santa Fe, but we had challenges with getting that into CDOT right of way and with the existing utilities in that area, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of options evaluated, but where we ended up is somewhat close to where the pipe is now. So, yeah. This spring and now for the rest of the spring, we're working on finalizing the design, permitting, and easements. And then we plan to start, or we're hoping to start construction about mid this year and then complete it in 2025. Throughout this project, we've had a significant amount of stakeholder engagement. This project is very impactful to both people in Littleton and Englewood. So we've done a number of things listed here. So we set up an Englewood Engaged website page, so you guys are welcome to visit that for more information, or I think you can even click to follow it if you want updates when that page gets updated. We've held public meetings, and following the public meetings in April and May, we had a public comment period in which wherever we can, we're trying to incorporate that feedback from last year from the public into our design. We're coordinating very closely with the city of Littleton, historical groups who are very interested in the ditch from a historic aspect. The South Platte Working Group we're working with, they're another group that's interested in it, both from a recreational and historical perspective. We're holding meetings for adjacent property owners. We've developed a fact sheet for City Ditch, and we're also working on developing a fact sheet for during construction and more communications that would happen before construction starts. And then we set up a specific email inbox for this project that we check frequently, and that way people can reach out to us with questions or concerns, and we've been very responsive to those. So next steps, like I mentioned, we're working through the final design, easements, and permitting. We're coordinating with a number of groups, the historic groups, Littleton, South Platte Working Group, and Littleton and Englewood citizens, and then developing that communication that will go out to folks before construction. Do you guys have any other questions?
I do.
Yeah.
What do the historic groups have to say?
Yeah, so they're interested in this project, and the more, I guess, vocal historic group has been Historic Littleton, and it's just a very, City Ditch is very old, and so we do recognize, there's definitely a historical aspect to the ditch, and so because it's so old, it was here before a lot of, the homes were here, that sort of thing, and so they're interested in preserving parts of the ditch or certain flumes, which are kind of structures that go overhead, over our streams and stuff. If you've been in Bellevue Park, there's a big long metal flume. So they're interested in preserving the flumes. And so that's another reason we've tried to straight line the pipe a little bit, is to try to leave the opportunity to leave some open ditch or leave the flumes if Littleton wants to preserve those or somebody else wants to take those over. So that's a lot of it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Stephanie, do you anticipate or have you received pushback? Or is there anybody out there who's not happy with this?
Yeah, so the public meetings that we held last spring were really interesting because in Englewood, folks were very excited about the project, very on board with it. The benefit of this project is really for Englewood's residences and businesses. And but folks in Littleton who have kind of a water feature near their house aren't as excited about the project, and they're not receiving those same benefits since we don't serve their water. So yeah, there's definitely people on both sides of it. We're trying to be understanding and work with everyone, and on this project.
I know this has been a big issue regarding the odor, the hardness, yada, yada. Have your studies shown that this is truly going to make a visible change in water quality?
Yeah, so there's been various studies, and I guess I'll say I'm not a treatment engineer, so I'm more pipeline. But on the treatment side, we have done like a taste, odor, and hardness study, and what that revealed that water, that is a much higher water quality that we're bringing to the treatment plant. They took samples over a period of time and compared them, and then we also take regular water quality samples from our water sources normally through operations. And so, and in recent years, we've actually started, like even in the winter and summer, we've tried to utilize city ditch more for our operations than we did in the past. So I think the thinking of Inglewood years ago was that our main source of water is our Union Avenue pump station, and then we have city ditch as a backup, another source. And then I think a few years ago, they realized that the water quality was better, the water tasted better when we were treating it with city ditch water. And so, yes, it will make a difference. It's not going to be the one, like, it's one of a number of projects.
Right, it's not a
that are
panacea,
treated.
we're not gonna just turn it like that.
Yeah, so there's multiple projects that we need in order to improve the water, and this is one of the big ones. So, and all of those combined are gonna make our water better.
Yeah, Rick and I just got out of the water and sewer meeting, so you talked about a couple of the other ones that we're gonna be bringing forth in front of council this coming Monday, like the ozone.
Yep.
And the sludging, there's a couple of other ones, but
Mhm.
yeah, multi-prong approach.
What's the general price tag?
Yeah, so we have budgeted for the project 12 million.
Where's that coming from?
We have that already, I guess it would be ratepayer money, but it's cash, like, that we have saved.
But it's just earmarked from our water bills.
Yeah, it would.
Inglewood specifically, I apologize for interrupting.
No, you're good. Yeah, Inglewood specifically, and then, yeah. So you guys pay every month on your water bill, there's a capital improvement fee. So that fee goes into projects like this one or other ones.
Right.
And so it's being funded through those rates and fees.
Thanks.
Why did you say you're stopping with those 3 sections and not doing north of the plant?
Yeah, so we don't necessarily need to go north of the plant because we, like, the water quality, like the main driver for this project is to take that improved water quality or that improved water to our water treatment plant. North of the plant, the water does continue to flow. There's contract users all the way down to Harbor Gulch Park, but because they use it for irrigation purposes, we can continue operating it in the same way.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
The other thing I was wondering, are there any sections, whether in the part you're looking at or north, where it's not in someone's backyard, but it could be used for public walking paths?
So that's what the South Platte Working Group has been interested in. And so a lot of the, like through the park areas, like in Littleton, there's already a lot of trails through there.
Right.
And so any that we impact through this, we would be restoring to the same or better condition. We've thought about if there's potential for that. Like off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there's a specific one that's not on private property. There's an area in Littleton that a lot of folks want to become a walking path, but it runs through a lot of private properties, so we don't really have control over if people can turn that into a walking path. And then north of the plant, it's still a mixture of piped and open channel, but a lot of that does still run through private properties and stuff. So it's not, in a few areas, I think there's like a few park areas where people could go, see it and that sort of thing. But I don't have a specific area that we've identified for it. We're still open to that if that's what, that's why we're trying to work with that group. But yeah, not a specific one we're looking at.
Hypothetically, if either city felt like it didn't care about people's feelings and wanted to just put a walking path, would they be legally allowed to do that? Like, do you have the right of way? or do the people own it?
We have, so our easement for the ditch is to operate and maintain our ditch. And so I don't know if we would have a legal mechanism to turn something into a walking path along our easement, just because that's not what's like defined in our easement. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm also not an attorney, but
Right,
that would be my interpretation of it.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't recommending that, I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
Mayor, is council is that green lighting this project for the most part, or is there any concern there?
Well, we haven't, it hasn't come up for vote, but I think we're, in terms of just the improvements that the residents will see in terms of water quality, I think there's a strong indication that we want to move forward, but obviously, there's still feedback that we want to hear from some of the citizens, so.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And we'll be taking, before construction can start, other than finalizing design, we'll have to enter into a construction contract with the selected contractor. And so, that contract would also be brought to the Water Sewer Board and City Council in the coming months before we actually kick off with construction.
This raises a question. Well, Kanye, you're probably the guy to answer it. We just got some interesting information, and there are potentially sustainability questions or issues related to it. And if you come back to us, on one hand, we could say, this is all very good, keep up the good work. On the other hand, we could say, well, we really think it needs to be 2 miles long instead of 3. What does council expect from us or want from us on a project like this? Should we weigh in, or should we absorb the information and file it away somewhere?
Well, we're not actually taking this is just informational, right?
Yes.
So this board is really only providing just any type of concerns about the project overall from a sustainability perspective.
Okay.
So if there's things that you would like to see or things that you want staff to address as part of this, that would be the extent of it.
Okay, yeah.
But obviously, it's just additional information for council to take in when they are deciding on a vote.
Okay. And again, I'm not advocating for any position,
Right.
but these things confuse me sometimes.
Yeah.
A tree ordinance, you said, what do you think on a tree ordinance? We said, here's what we think.
Yeah.
Now there's ideas or questions about what should be planted around a reservoir, or, should there be a walking path? And I get confused at that point, and I don't want to step on toes or stir the pot, but on the other hand, is there an opportunity for input? I don't know.
Well, from what I was able to understand, the walking path was all in Littleton and other jurisdictions, right? So nothing actually fell within Inglewood.
That's where I guess that's where we've heard the most, people have been most vocal about it. Yeah, the project, the only portion is within Bellevue Park area. And so I know there's a number of paths that already go through there. So I don't know if it would make sense or not to add something. But I would encourage you guys, just generally, there's an email on here if you guys have feedback for us on the project or questions. Generally, I would encourage you to reach out, or, don't be afraid to ask if you guys have.
And I appreciate the education. I mean, this is all new to me, so thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing about it.
And I'll say too, I think this is a really great project for Inglewood. It's really gonna be beneficial, along with a lot of the other things, utilities as well. But if it is something that you guys are excited about, feel free to share about it, or if you see that there is an upcoming meeting or you have information about it and want to share it, you're more than welcome to. I think we're working really hard to improve our water, really excited about the things we're doing. And so, if we can help get the word out about that.
And Stephanie, I'll also say is you kind of sugarcoated at the beginning, but you have been working with all the groups that you talked about there, all the outside interests. This was a very contentious issue when it was first brought up. And so the fact that the historical societies are, for the most part, on board with the plan, it says a lot about how far you've come and how you have taken public feedback about the project itself, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd second that. Just the links that y'all have gone to collect public comments, it's
Yeah.
impressive. It's thorough. So, maybe we've got some time, and you showed us the timeline. Maybe we come back and have this as a standing item in the next month or two and see if there's any comments, or it sounds like there's an email domain set up that we can, if we wanted to submit some comments as a commission, we could go that route too.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to do that. Also, I work closely with Mel, and so
Yeah.
if you guys would be more comfortable going through her, you're welcome to do that. But yeah.
Can I ask one more short question?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just coming to me as I'm putting the pieces together. So you haven't really looked north of the plant because it's not a need for water quality. Has anyone looked if there are any opportunities for walking paths there?
We haven't looked closely at that. Yeah, and I don't, like I mentioned, I think a lot of it runs through residential areas and people's backyards and areas that are even a little bit tighter than some of the areas that we're working in Littleton. And so we haven't particularly looked into that, but
How would that get looked into? Because it feels like it was looked into for the other segments because of the piping project, but if it's not getting piped north of there, who or how would look into it or could look into it?
well, that's a good question. Some of it could be our department, some of it, I know that there's at least one area, I think it runs through like a park in Inglewood. And so maybe that could be something that would be coordinated with the Parks Department and could be something we look into. I think another piece to it also that regardless of who looks into it, we'd have to figure out like the funding for something like that. But yeah, so I think, yeah.
I've seen a few examples like in Arvada and in Lakewood where they have a little ditch with a little walking path, and even if it's just a few blocks, it seems really popular with people walking their dogs or taking their toddlers for stroll, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea and, not something we've specifically looked into before, but yeah, I think could be something that Inglewood looks into in the future.
Thanks.
I think it is being used that way right now, just at least directly north to it.
If it is, could it be put on Google Maps? Because right now it doesn't show up.
Yeah. We can just like.
Thanks for bringing these.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
there's
so this might be the
more
only
than
part that.
there are
but
people here,
it's
so
through Here,
good.
Yeah, you got it.
and then it's Ripple apart.
Interested in a handout?
So if there is a part that is walkable,
Because I see, I know residents that live here,
Uh-huh.
and they don't walk their dog quite a bit on this.
that's
And it's a
awesome.
good.
So we-
Are there any other questions?
There was just
And
one.
how
Sorry.
No, you're good. So yeah, the question was, like, if there are any concerns from a wildlife perspective, roads being like an open stream. And yeah, there have been, so I guess we're doing all the permitting that, like, as required for this project. So there's permitting associated with the railroad and the Army Corps of Engineers, that sort of thing. And,
Oh, sorry, mine on.
oh, you're good.
Do you want to bring yours back?
No, you can share, that's all good. Yeah, so we're going through all the permitting processes that we need to for this project. So there are certain regulations that we have to follow too, like related to raptors and migratory birds, and so that's gonna impact our construction, and we had to do environmental analyses for this project, looking for wetlands and looking for migratory birds and raptors and other species like that. So we completed those analyses, and then before construction starts, we'll have to do another analysis to look for those, depending on what time of year we start construction. Most likely this summer, we'll have to look for migratory birds. And so there's that component that we're already going through. And in addition to that, like these are all areas that, like most of the areas that the ditch runs through have nearby other streams. So Lee Gulch, Slaughterhouse Gulch, and Big Dry Creek all run through, and Dad Clark Gulch. So each of the 4 stretches has another waterway that runs through it. So there's additional sources of water for those animals and wildlife. And then because we'll be restoring everything back, we'll be seeding, those animals will, you know, continue to be able to live in that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Stephanie, this area, because there is a very small section of Littleton that this really affects, or Englewood that this really, I know where it is. I see how it runs. It runs back on the backside of a number of properties that run up the side there. Have those people been contacted about changes, and will that affect property, private property as far as you know in the Englewood area?
So, we're looking at, so that, I guess what, the route that we were originally planning on for that Bellevue Park area was actually straight lining more along Windermere. And really just in the last month or so, it's seeming like that route may not be as feasible as we thought it was gonna be. So we are now evaluating going down the ditch. And so when we're gonna be communicating more with those residents and just Englewood in general to let folks know that we're looking at doing that change, but we're not quite, we're still evaluating it right now. So when we have a decision made on that and we're moving forward on it, then we'll develop some additional communication. But yeah, it was, interestingly enough, at the public meeting last spring, there was I got mixed feedback from residents who live right along the ditch over there. There was one neighbor who was really upset that we weren't going to be piping behind her property, and another neighbor talked to us that, you know, was happy that we weren't going to be piping behind their property with the route that we were proposing at that time. So it's interesting how everyone has different perspectives on that.
Well, it's kind of a walking path right down there by that ditch area. And so Christine, you talked about walking paths. That's actually a default one for a lot of people to bring their dogs to the park, things like that. And I was just, you know, I know the original one did move it over, you know, by Windermere, and now you're saying it might not be happening.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And to be honest, I don't think we thought far enough ahead on the walking path, just because we're still evaluating changing that route. But I also use that. I like to walk at lunch. So that's my normal loop alongside there. So that's a good point, and that's something we can definitely look into. I hadn't thought about that yet. So that's a good point.
Time check on this topic, just FYI. If there's ever we get to a point in this project where you could use support, whether it's just collective brain power or letter of recommendation from us, we trust that you would reach out to Mel.
Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
And I'm thinking, and this is a question to the group, at our next meeting, we might want to have a brief recap, because you've given us some thought to digest. We can call you, we can email you. I don't know if there's any issues or recommendations. I'm not looking for any, but I think maybe at the next meeting, we could just review what did we hear last month? Are there any recommendations, considerations, or something? And we could work with Mel and take that in the spirit of support. That's not looking for conflict. It's just saying, don't forget there's an opportunity for this walking path or whatever. So you've given us a lot. It's very good. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate your time. And yeah, definitely reach out if you guys have thoughts or ideas.
Sure.
Forward. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right.
Thanks.
I'm just wondering, are you going to have to stick around since you're
I hate to ask you to stay.
Oh, that's fine. I was actually planning on staying for the full meeting because I thought.
Thank you very much. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought it'd be kind of awkward to get up, so.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you again for being able to.
Oh, yeah, no
Great
problem.
job. Great job. And if I can just move on to the next item, sort of related to this, the question is, would the commission want to compile any recommendations for plant type at the retention pond? We haven't talked about this, so I guess we might want to talk a little bit about it right now. Might be some ideas floating around out there. I suspect Christine might have some ideas on what would make sense. Again, it's a good example of what's the role of the commission? Should we throw our 2 cents into something? Or should we just get information and learn more about what's going on? But this was new to me. When Mel went through the agenda with me, I didn't really know what this was all about, so somebody help me.
I don't have any details. My first question was, do we know if the Parks and Rec Commission is looking into this as well? So I'll write that down as a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even do great work.
Where is the retention pond?
Where's the retention
is it?
pond?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Navajo
There will be a retention pond. It's either in the planning phase or soon to be under construction.
It's a public works project. I think it's on Radcliffe and Navajo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just south of Quincy.
Yeah, and they just recently started construction on the project, but not on the pond itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I'm a little bit confused on this because I didn't have any background on it. And I was hoping somebody from the city could explain what is being requested or what's the question or what's the issue.
Cara,
Cara?
Hey, hi. So I am not familiar with the project, but I think this ties into something we discussed, it was either last fall, whenever we submitted the tree ordinance recommendation. But part 2 of that was a recommendation to update the city code to reflect the use of United States Western native plants. And so if we're being asked for recommendations on like what to plant, this ties in with that, and maybe we should revisit that part 2 recommendation.
What's the feeling of the group here? Is this something we want to pursue or do some homework on, or do we want to move towards making some kind of a recommendation?
I think just having a little bit more background about
Yeah,
the project
right.
itself would be helpful, just to know, you know, what are they looking at
Right.
doing, and what is the amount of space that they're needing to plant, and how much money is available to put towards that.
I could ask Mel to give us some background or some information prior to the next meeting.
Yes.
And we might be able to have, let's say, a better conversation around it. And it may be we're jumping the gun. Maybe the schedule is such that we're ahead of where the project is. But like I said, I agree with Tracy. I am also a little bit foggy on what this is all about. So
Let's put it on Mel. If she can circulate some resources
yeah,
to us,
yeah.
let's bump this as a line item for the March meeting.
Yeah, and I can give a very quick, very high-level
Great, thank
overview of this right now. But basically, yeah, this is a public works project, it's a stormwater project. It's a major component of our stormwater initiatives and stormwater master plan. Effectively, it's there's a large project that's going on related to stormwater in the city, and so this is basically a key part of it, building a retention pond. And so I do believe that they're working on planning some kind of kickoff event or community event involving it relatively soon. So I made a note that Mel can send that to you to invite you to it whenever that happens. I think sometime in the spring. Just like Stephanie, there's another great engineer named Rachel in Public Works who's the project manager for this, which I think she gave this request to Mel. That's an option too. The commission could have her come if you want more details about. I don't know how closely this commission has touched stormwater, or if there's an interest.
We
in
never
learning
have.
more about it. Okay. Well, maybe there's an interest there.
And you know, and it does come back to our focus, and you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in Englewood, and you can put a sustainability label on a whole bunch of stuff going on in Englewood, and I don't want us to get so dispersed that we've built our vocabulary up, but we haven't influenced anything. So I'll talk to Mel about it as well. I think it's definitely interesting, and I definitely would want the commission to be in the know, but how strong of a sustainability connection to it, I don't know. So maybe Mel can guide us. Okay.
I think we want to find out at a minimum if they're thinking of using native plants. That would be appropriate. And perhaps if they haven't thought about it, we would have a recommendation that they do have native plants. And then to the degree we would recommend specific plans probably depends on any member's particular knowledge in that area or interested community members'
Sure.
knowledge in that area.
Is there an opportunity there for some sustainability effort, or would we be getting in the way? I guess is another way of looking at it. I'm imagining from an engineering point of view, that priority number one is safety. And it's the engineering reality of we've got to take care of this stormwater. So I respect that. I would want it, but I'll talk to Mel about it. And at a minimum, she could probably give us an update or some type of education at the next meeting. Yeah.
And we've gotten the impression that Parks was looking more at native plants than they did in the past.
Right.
So we could hope that that's underway here already.
It might be a no-brainer. I mean,
Yeah.
it might be something quite easy to do, so.
When I didn't get the exact background, but Christine, I think that's exactly what it is, because when I saw Mel's notes, the engineer had asked Mel to ask the commission, you know, we're planning on doing native plans, what are your recommendations? So,
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we're good
So we may have an invitation to comment.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any other thoughts or questions on that topic?
More come.
All right, we'll put it on the agenda for next week or next month. Okay, we've got some city updates. Tim, I guess this would be your show.
Yeah, quick quarterly sustainability newsletter, issue 2. Do we skip over that for?
I was looking at that. It's coming out tomorrow?
Is that what this is here, the February
Yeah.
volume 2?
Yeah.
So I was a little confused.
Yeah, do we have time to even make a?
We're gonna run home tonight and.
I was wondering about that.
Find it.
Not that I have any constructive feedback, I was just curious if we were skipping over that for, so that's good to know.
Yeah, my impression is Mel was running with the ball and.
Cool.
But I will say to her, I wish we had a little larger window to
More
look at
runway.
these things. If
I
you
like
want,
all the content, the content is really great.
you know,
Although to be nitty gritty for just a second, maybe I'm just missing something. It says February volume 2, and it says, welcome to the first newsletter for the sustainability at the city. So I didn't know if that was, if we needed to align that. It's not, is it still the first newsletter, or is that something she could quickly fix? Anyway, okay, I won't belabor that.
well, my opinion is, if you want our opinion, give us a little time.
Sure.
And let's structure it a little bit better, that there's a way for us to give you feedback. But for it to be on a Tuesday night agenda for a Wednesday release, kind of.
Did Mel include this in the materials that went out to you?
She did, yeah, she did.
Okay, I think that was her intent, was to send it to you
Okay.
to review as part of the packet, so that.
Okay.
I definitely agree that it's a little bit tight to
Yeah.
have the discussion tonight and have it go out tomorrow, but I think the intent was a little bit of homework for the commission.
Send her
to
feedbacks for
to
us.
So
review.
send her
Okay,
feedback
that's
via
great.
email.
Yeah, or to review it in preparation of this meeting and then to come to the meeting with feedback.
Thank you, okay.
I like the content.
She does good work, so I'm not, but good point, Meyer.
Onward.
So evidently no one has looked at it and has had any problem with it. So
I looked at it.
I just picked up on that one.
just that one.
Little
that one
oversight
note.
maybe, and,
See,
but I can email that to Mel, that's fine.
Can you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right,
No problem.
all right.
I do know.
Now, we shall proceed.
Nice.
Go ahead.
So before my regular updates, Elizabeth, I don't know if I got your sign back.
You didn't, and usually I'm good at following
It's okay.
directions. This wasn't, and also I forgot how to spell.
There you go.
Sustainability.
Been there.
That's okay. Oh, you have it. Yeah, if you can just fill it out. And Christine, I did just swear in at the beginning, but
You wanna
here,
fill us
so I'll
out
do that
right now
really
before you
quickly
fill
now.
Okay.
So I'll read it. You can just say your name when I say your name, and then you can fill it out for me. So I say your name.
I, Christine Reaper,
Do solemnly swear to affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Inglewood, and that I will, to the best of my ability, faithfully perform the duties of office as a member of the Sustainability Commission during my continuance there.
You have to repeat that.
do solemnly swear.
Oh, you don't have to. Just say it. Just say it.
I do.
Congratulations. So if I'll sign a test, but if you can fill out the rest and just get it to me by the end of the meeting, that would be great. Great, so that was the first thing that Mel had, we went over. So a couple other things. So first is the council retreat, and I don't know, Mayor, if you'd like to do this, or you'd like me to?
No, go ahead, because I'm trying to think of what came up.
Yeah, so we, so for at least 5 years now, before that I've been here, we have done a council retreat every January. This year it was on Saturday, January 27th. It's an all-day opportunity, and it's almost always largely focused on the city's strategic plan. There's also team building and some other elements that are woven into it. We've had a really great facilitator for the last 3 years, whose wife is actually the chief sustainability officer for Denver Public Schools, and so he has his name of his company is Sustainnovation, but it's more about sustainable government, more about kind of the financial and kind of long-term sustainability of governments, but with an environmental and larger sustainability element woven in. So at that retreat, before the retreat, actually, council reviewed the strategic plan and provided staff with some ideas on edits and modifications. You also did that, so I want to say thank you. The memo that you wrote was attached to the council communication, so council members saw it before the meeting. They also had a slide at the retreat in the retreat deck that is public, that you can search through our iCompass system, that had a summary of your edits on it. One of the major things that you brought up as a concern, I know this has been a concern for a while, is the metrics that you have and making them more strategic, more target focused. And so we didn't have a lot of time to do that. However, Mel does have it on your March agenda, and I believe she's kind of prepped you for it to start really digging into that. And so we do go to council every quarter with updates on the plan. This plan we are planning on bringing to council on March 5th, or March 4th, excuse me. However, there will be an opportunity, I think it will be in April or May, for some edits. And so I think what Mel is planning on doing is working with you this spring to refine those metrics, get feedback, to start setting targets, and then bring those to council during the first edit system situation in April or May. You also had a few ideas related to things like biochar that was added as a project. You also had suggestions that Mel would make sure we included, which were related to cleaning up some of the language around the energy code. The biggest change council made around sustainability was they moved the clean and connected transportation goal area out of sustainability. That doesn't mean it's any less important. That doesn't mean that it's not connected to your work anymore. But the reason they did that is that they created a brand new outcome area called transportation. So the original iteration of the plan that we're working under from 2020 did have a transportation section. In 2021, it was merged in infrastructure and transportation. And the focus really was on the infrastructure part of transportation. There was, though, a goal involving multimodal. There was also a goal involving transportation safety. As the transportation safety goal got beefed up, there's about 15 projects in there. Last night, council got a study session on Vision Zero, which you may be familiar with, but it's a concept around education, enforcement, and engineering that's kind of holistic about reducing or eventually eliminating pedestrian fatalities and severe injuries. And so with that discussion, council said, maybe it makes sense to bring back transportation as its own area. And hey, maybe it makes sense to add clean and connected under that. So that's the biggest shift that occurred. Everything, projects that are still in progress, we are likely, council will see them as projects we're recommending moving over. We're right now finalizing the document that council will see on March 5th. But yes, we thank you very much for your recommendations, and that's basically where we're at. I don't know if I forgot anything.
No, it was a good overview. No, not much to add on this. Honestly, I was pleasantly surprised that aspects of sustainability were not cut as part of the strategic plan. Just based on feedback and just knowing fellow council members, some aspects of it they want to cut just based off of concerns about rising costs to citizens. And so the fact that that did not come up during the Saturday meeting, to me, I considered it a win. So, yeah, so it's always hard to balance long-term goals with short-term impacts to citizens. But I'm glad that it didn't go to that extent.
Absolutely, Mayor. And just to echo that, feedback that I called, so Mel gave up her Saturday to be there, which we really appreciated. And I gave her, called her and gave her feedback on the way home after I had talked and talked to our city manager, Sean Lewis, and the feedback really was that the way Mel and you all have approached sustainability is really, I think, right-sized or fit into Inglewood. And so the areas that you're focusing on, things that are affordable to people, things that people, quite frankly, have come to council members and come to all of you saying, why don't we have a composting program? Why aren't we doing more with native plants? That's what you and Mel have championed. And so you've really done, I think, a phenomenal job, all of you and Mel, in terms of listening to council and in terms of listening to the public, and making sure that, we're not Boulder, we're not Fort Collins, we're not whatever other city, we're Inglewood, and we need to adopt sustainability in the way that's going to fit into our culture and the rest of the plan. I think you've done that successfully. So.
Damn, I'm gonna cry. All right, that was great.
Can I ask one nitpicky question? The tree ordinance, is that being considered?
Actually, so that was one of the questions.
What's going on with that?
I don't know where we left it, to be honest with you,
Okay.
Michael. So I'll have to go back and I'll probably just ask the city manager where that landed.
So Mel and I kept it in the plan as we call it project in development, and so it's still kind of in the exploration phase. I think where it was left was that it was really now, the ball was more in the parks court to and our urban forester to explore the feasibility of it.
Right.
And then eventually come back to council.
I think the commission was unanimous in saying we think it's a good idea and we think the city, so hopefully that'll move in some direction.
I agree.
Any other thoughts or questions, y'all?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I want to maybe get your take from the sort of impression of a clarification of metrics for what we would be doing. I guess I would assume that council would give us maybe priorities in terms of what they felt was important and what, would be more of a burner, front burner versus back burner issues. Is that going to come back to us to kind of make that priority to give you recommendations? How do you see that?
Well, I think, honestly, I feel that the metrics are going to start with city staff. City staff would then provide that information to this body, and then ultimately comes to in front of city council for approval. Because I think city staff has a greater understanding of our baseline, where our numbers are today, and what we could realistically achieve within a certain time frame.
Thank you. I because of the monetary aspect of some of those issues, I would think that this was outside of our purview and our understanding to do. So thank you.
Okay.
Cool. A couple other quick.
Yeah.
The next one is the gas stove ventilation one pager. So that's really this. Mel, there you go. Mel's done a phenomenal job working with our also very phenomenal communications department on a lot of materials that she's been pushing out. So this is just an example that she wanted to share with the community and with you, all of you, of course. She also, another update is that the energy efficiency programs page is now live on the city website. If you've had a chance to check that out.
Hey, Tim, how's this going to get distributed?
That is a great question that I don't know the answer to.
No problem, we'll circle back.
Because this would be
It
really
looks
good
nice.
to just,
Like
if everybody got it in their mailbox.
It's too big to stuff.
I'd say
This
it
is
can't
good.
quite fit in an envelope, which stinks. Like in a
Or
water
like-
bill.
around the door.
Yep.
hanger.
Punch it.
Yeah, I think it's a door.
It's definitely cut as like a palm card or like a handout card.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It looks really nice. I just want to make
Yeah,
sure it gets
it
in
is.
everybody's hands.
That's,
Maybe stuff inside of each one of the.
because I'm like, okay, I want to switch
Now
out
you
my
can-
gas stove
I
now.
look for free.
That's what
I
I,
think and I can't speak to all the details, but I think a lot of this is like for events, at the rec centers.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
More of like a handout thing.
Cool.
Could it go on the website?
Sure, hope it would be, yeah. We try with most of our materials like this, also put them on the website.
I think it's linked on the sustainability newsletter.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, for sure, I read it.
The one that's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is, yes.
And then the energy efficiency program, as I mentioned, the page is live.
About that.
And then she's also been quite busy going to council on February 5th. So last week, she went to council on 2 items. The waste characterization study was approved unanimously on the first reading. Has she given you an update on that, what that is?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so the short version of that is it's a grant that we got with 3 other cities, I believe, 4 cities total, to basically study our waste. As you know, there was maybe 2 years ago, there was large discussion about a single hauler trash program that didn't move forward. But there's still, I think, a need to better understand, and we've done it as a city, meaning city facilities. You know, we've worked with Waste Management, which is our hauler for city facilities, around, you know, contaminated recycling and what types of things go into the waste. And so that's really what this is. So it's with the Front Range Waste Diversion Project. It has to go to a second reading, but because it was unanimous on the first, there shouldn't be an issue. That'll be next week. And then they'll be able to move forward working with Front Range Diversion and also with the other cities on doing that study. It's a long-term study, but probably by the fall, she'll have more to report back to you on that. Also,
Can you qualify long-term a little bit? Is that like 2-year, 5-year, 10-year?
I actually don't know the term. I think it's about a 6 month to a year to do the study.
Okay.
I think. Hope that's right. And then also she got approval for the approval to apply. Our charter does require city staff to go with there's a few approaches to it, but it does require staff to go to council to get approval to apply for grants. And so she did get approval from council to apply for the Charge Ahead Colorado grant, which hopefully she's also talked to you about, which I think would be for 5 chargers
It was, yeah.
in England. And then she'll be back on February 26th, which is a study session to give an update on the energy performance audit contract that she's been working on. I think that's it.
Thanks, Tim.
Any questions? Thanks, Tim. Before we get into the agenda items, is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about? We're coming to the closure here pretty soon, but I just want to make sure everybody gets a chance to speak up if they have anything they want to add. If not, agenda items. What I have starred is talking about, find my note here. Here we go. Logan is going to meet with his subcommittee, and we'll probably have something to present next meeting.
If not before, that could, depending on timing, that could go out via email soliciting everybody's feedback, depending if we need a quick turnaround.
Logan, can you just remind me the name of your subcommittee?
And,
Really? You made me repeat that mouthful?
Yes, I am.
Sustainability Commission Communications Subcommittee.
Could have just been shorted.
Voted on it for Yeah. SCSC.
Also, we want to do a brief recap on what we heard tonight about the city ditch. Do we have any questions, issues, recommendations? And then any homework or anything we do between now and then we can bring to that meeting. But I think it's just clarification of what role, if any, do we see for ourselves. Cara?
Hey, I have a question. Do we know what the outcome was of our tree ordinance recommendation? Has that gone to council yet?
I can't hear her. So.
She asked about the tree ordinance update.
Oh, can we get a tree ordinance update from Mel next month?
Yeah, that was what we briefly went over. Yeah, so Carrie, it did go to council. I think council was generally supportive of the concept moving forward. It is still in this, it will be presented to council to be a part of the strategic plan moving forward. And I can go back and check with Mel, but I think it's now, we have an urban forester. I think you've met Evan.
Yep.
Who I think it's now kind of in his court and
Drafting
his
something
department
or-
to do more.
Great.
work on it.
Great, okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can ask for an update just so we're in the loop.
Okay. And then I do want in the March meeting to discuss bringing that part 2 of the tree ordinance back on the table.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
Part 2 of the tree ordinance, bringing that up for discussion in March.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I got you now.
Thank you.
I would request an update. I need to find my email. I never saw a response. I've been wanting to partner with Cafe 180 over. They have a summer sustainability education course that they do, and I wanted to see if that was an opportunity for us to collaborate with them. Mel made a connection, I believe, but I never saw a response. So I would just like to bring that back up in March and see where things are at, so we have some runway. Because I think it's in June.
I know she sent an email or a message in their direction.
Yes.
And I don't know if they ever
Yeah,
got back.
I didn't see anything back from that. Okay.
But she can answer that question.
Anything
Anything else?
Appreciate the insight.
Are we talking for March, Mike?
It's not official
Okay.
anymore.
Lost my chance.
So it looks like we'll have something on the agenda for March.
You know, I had a thought. We're in the middle of the legislative session, and I wonder if we could maybe have like Rep. Froelich come speak to us about some state level policies that are being run at the State House. I don't know if she'd be available for something like that.
Interesting.
Just a thought, and maybe Mel could do some outreach. I know Meg is in the community. She makes appearances and I think likes to show up and chat at these sorts of things. I understand our state senator just had a baby, so maybe he's not available. But getting Meg would be, I think, a lot of fun.
I'm not against it. Again, the universe is so large and sustainability is everywhere. My only concern is we're at Cafe 180 here, we've got a state legislature here, we've got a ditch project there. And my concern is we're just gonna touch each one of them and not have any influence on one of them. So that's, I'm just leveling with you.
What if I lobbied you a bit, said there's a biochar bill being voted?
It's negotiable.
Just tossing ideas at any point, yeah.
Right.
Or even maybe we could think,
No,
April, May, June, like a post-session.
or we do a special meeting or a
Debrief.
special session or something like that.
Sure.
Because, but anyways, that's, I don't want to put a wet blanket on it.
I do want to echo what Mike too is commenting on. And I look at this particularly for people coming onto this committee to really, what is it? Who are we? What is our real focus? What is it that you and Tim and the council had intended to be the primary thing we're doing? Are we responsive to you as far as what you need from us? Do you expect us to give you stuff so that you put it on your ever-growing plate of things to consider? You know, or is it somewhere in between? And I would ask maybe both of you to kind of illuminate that a little bit for us. We can do a lot of things. We can have everybody come and talk to us. But at the end of the day, what needle are we moving by just listening to a lot of people coming to this group? So I would ask both of you, because I know, Tim, you were embryonic in this thing. Where are you guys on this?
You can, go ahead.
Well, Rick, I think one thing I'll share personally with you is I live in Denver. I'm on a commission in Denver. And I feel the same way about that commission. I kind of joined wanting to kind of move the needle on some things, and yeah, anyways, I can talk more about that. But so I understand what you're saying. I think one of the things that has to be acknowledged is that when the commission was created, sustainability as a program in the city was still in its infancy as well. And so there weren't really programmatic goals. It was really more around kind of structural goals. So we wanted the commission to basically be the liaison between the community and council and staff on sustainability issues. So that was really the crux of what we wanted out of the commission. We didn't necessarily expect, when it was Keep Inglewood Beautiful, they did some of their own programming. That really was an expectation that with the hiring of Mel was also at the same time. So the hiring of Mel was, okay, some of that programming like hazardous waste and leaf pickup, that will shift to a person that we're hiring. So we're not expecting this new commission to do programming. We're really expecting them to be a sounding board. We're expecting them to be in the community and then to advise council and staff on what sustainability priorities will be. So I do really think a lot of what you've done is exactly what we expected. So for example, council saying, hey, we have the Sustainability Commission, there's questions around a tree ordinance, let's have them noodle on it, let's have them work through our urban forester on it. That's exactly, I think, what was expected. I think the voice that you've given and all the help that you've given to Mel, she is the full-time employee focused on this, and it's your responsibility to advise her as well as council on areas you want to focus on. I think you've done that effectively. I think the fact that, native plants is now something that projects are including, I think is and should be traced back to you. I think one of the struggles, maybe Rick, that you're articulating is as an advisory body, or board, you're not running the programs yourself. You're not creating the programs or initiatives, and so maybe it is, hard to kind of say like we've achieved all these things. But the reality is that your voice has led to a lot. Maybe it's we need to do a better job as staff in trying to help you draw that line, or maybe have something on the agenda that's a celebration of success and acknowledgement. But those are just a few things that I came up with just now that I think could be traced directly back to this commission.
No, that's right, Tim. I think everything you said is exactly right. I think we have to do a better job also of just updating you on some of the work that you've done and provided to council and how council feels about it. So I know that one of the items that you talked about earlier, the grant for the Energy Colorado grant.
Yeah.
Just applying for the Energy Colorado grant, that was not voted on unanimously. There were still a lot of concerns from members of council that potentially it may be a waste of money for the city to go down the path of actually adding EV chargers within town. So just the fact that we're applying for a grant that we haven't been awarded was not seen as unanimously. So there's still challenges within council about how far we want to go with sustainability. If it was up to me, I would want to go as fast as possible, as far as possible with this. But having 7 members of council, we don't always see eye to eye on some of these projects. I do think that you guys are doing fantastic work. The tree canopy issue, I think that there was a consensus there. At least from my point of view, I was just trying to figure out, well, are we treating all trees alike? Are there certain trees that we should be protecting versus others? That was kind of where my line was at, but it's just asking staff to just look at it a little bit closer and then providing a recommendation there. So I do think that something's going to come of that, but we just move a little bit slower than I think the community would want us to, and maybe the board itself would want us to.
Thank you. It's a good point. And I remind myself, we're a work in progress. And I go back to where we were before you came on board, and we were floundering. And there was some frustration that we were picking up litter one weekend, and we were trying to do good stuff, but there wasn't any glue to it, or there wasn't. And so my personal feeling is we've made progress, but I think we need to keep honing our tools. We have to keep pushing. And I do appreciate the fact that council recognizes we're here.
Right.
And
actually, I'll add one more thing, and then I'm not sure how far you want to go with this, but one of the things that I've noticed when we are discussing any sustainability issues with council, and I mentioned this earlier, is just potential cost impacts to individual citizens for any sustainability. I try my best to kind of refute some of the claims that are brought up by members of council, but if there is going to be something that this board does bring in front of council or wants us to consider, that may be one aspect that you want to tackle. Is these are the short-term costs that citizens may see, but these are the long-term impacts or benefits that not only are citizens going to see, but the community at large are going to see. That's something that is always coming up anytime we bring up any type of sustainability issue.
I appreciate that, because a year or so ago, I talked to council, and there was sort of a sidebar conversation about what's economic. And I think we were talking about solar panels on city buildings. And one council member said, we looked at it and we determined it wasn't economic. And I said, well, what's economic? I mean, is it a 20-year horizon or a 30?
Right.
I didn't get an answer to it, but I felt I got a pause. Somebody said, you know, I mean, if you want a total payback on a project in 2 years or 3 years, that's pretty hard. But what I'm hearing you say, Nathaniel, is if we address that, even conceptually, to say, if we put solar panels on the top of every city building in Englewood, we recommend a 25-year amortization perspective. You're saying even that would have value from your.
I think there's some, if you're able to quantify dollar-wise, any type of aspect for a project that we're looking at, I think that brings value.
Okay, that's something I think
that's good feedback.
we could
ROI.
struggle.
Yeah, whatever, yeah, the ROI on solar panels, yeah.
Yeah,
It's good feedback.
thank you, that's good. Okay. This is good, but I know everybody has limited time. Is there anything you want to talk about, or can we call it quits? Nobody's saying anything, so I move we adjourn this meeting.
Let's do it. Good job, team. Welcome new members.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Great.
That was good.
Yeah, you can